Life on the road can feel like freedom on steroids. New cities every month, careers that fit into a backpack, horizons that keep stretching. But swipe past the palm tree Instagram posts and you'll find a tougher question. Can you build deep, lasting relationships when your next border run is already booked? Today we tackle that head-on with Aliza Virani, a 5-year solo nomad who surprised herself by finding love at Bansko Nomad Fest and has been co-creating an itinerary and a life with her partner ever since. If you ever wondered whether travel and true connections can coexist, keep your earbuds in. This one's for you. My name is Palle Bo, and today my co-host is Alexandra. Hi Alexandra, where are you in the world right now?
Hey Palle, I'm now in Italy on Lake Garda. Where are you?
I am still in Cape Town for just a few more days and then heading to Canada. So it's so nomadic, right? We're all over the place, and it's going to get even wilder because our guest, Aliza, you're in Mexico.
Yes, I'm in Mexico City.
So what's it like there right now?
It's sunny, it's perfect weather. It's coming into rainy season, but still most of the day is really, really nice. And yeah, I absolutely love it.
This episode is brought to you by Visit Estonia, the most digitally advanced country in Europe and virtual home for many digital nomads. Let's just start by getting to know you a little bit. How long have you been living nomadically, and what do you do when you're a nomad?
Yeah, so I've been doing the digital nomad thing on and off for about 8 years. And I started with backpacking, and then I kind of transitioned into remote work before remote work was a thing. And then I ended up landing a job in Dubai. And I negotiated into my contract to work 4 months on, 2 months off, so I could continue to travel, do long trips. So I've kind of done different styles over the years, but I've been fully remote in work for the last 5 years.
That's amazing.
That was a good contract.
What was the main thing that made you take this decision to travel more intensely and see the world and become a backpacker since the very beginning?
I had zero desire to travel initially in my 20s. And I was even offered a free trip to Japan and Korea with one of my friends. And I was like, no, I'm very career oriented. I have to stay. I was in Toronto at the time. And I was like, I have to stay and I want to work on this job application I had and really get my career going. And then it just hit me like a ton of bricks. One day I woke up and I was like, I have not seen any part of the world. And I really, really want to travel. And like most things in my life, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks. That's just kind of the system and the way it happens for me. And surprisingly, 2 weeks later, our entire team in the kind of like startup boutique event firm I was working in got laid off. And I was the happiest to be leaving because I took that severance check and I just booked a one-way ticket to Thailand. And it started there.
That's cool.
Nice.
And you've been traveling solo for many years, just you alone?
Yes, correct. I've been doing almost all of those years. I did have a partner for about like a year and a half of those, but majority of the countries I've been to and travels I've had have been alone.
But not anymore.
Not anymore.
Can you paint a picture of the moment at Bansko Nomad Fest when you met your boyfriend Peter, and what sparked it between the talks and the tapas?
There's kind of 3 stories to how me and Peter met. There's his story, there's my story, but then there's this other story with the universe kind of working in the background. So I think what happened at Nomad Fest was he had saw me on Hinge, so one of the dating apps. I had opened it for maybe like a millisecond, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to date right now. So I was just going through a lot, and I just closed it. But it was enough for the app to capture my profile and push it out, I guess. And so Peter has seen me on Hinge, but he was like, if I see her on Hinge, then she's here in Bansko. So I'm not going to message her on the app. I'm going to find her at the conference and I'm going to talk to her and approach her that way. And so he did. He obviously, he managed to spot me. And like my version of the story is when I first saw him, it was almost like there was like a beam of light. Something about his energy was so captivating and magnetic. I was like, who is that guy? And he did try to approach me, but I think there was a bunch of people in between us that got him along the way. And he thought I was sitting next to this other guy that I might have been dating. So he wasn't super forthcoming and he didn't approach me. And when I turned around, he was gone. And I thought, oh my God, like, who is that guy?
Oh, no.
And so we both kind of noticed each other and we both wanted to talk to each other, but obviously we didn't know that there was like a mutual attraction. And the next day when we ran into each other again, there was like a little bit of light flirting and then he joined our group chat. But the real moment we met was when it was supposed to be the speed dating night. And I was really looking forward to that because obviously like a massive objection with dating is that, you know, you meet somebody who's local or you meet somebody who's not fully nomadic. And then I've had this before, you know, your lifestyles are just not compatible. And so I had really been looking forward to finally being single and at Nomad Fest and at speed dating to find somebody who could actually live the same lifestyle I do. And then speed dating was canceled due to rain.
Oh.
I was like, no, this is absolutely terrible. I've come here just for this. Well, partially. And so, you know, we were all kind of stumbling into like the one local bar there that everyone goes to. I think it's called Piran. And me and him ended up actually kind of entering at the same time. And he said, you know, we chatted a bit before we entered. And then as we entered, I was like, you know, it's so annoying that speed dating was canceled. And he's like, was there anyone you were looking forward to talking to? And I was like,
You?
I was like, should I do it? Should I put it out there? Yeah. And so I said, well, I think you're pretty cute. And then he responded with the same.
Oh.
That was really cool. And we thought that was like, and then we did actually still go to speed dating the next day. We both just decided we'd still go. And oddly enough, when the speed dating ended, we ended on each other. And so we kind of looked at each other and shrugged and we were just like, I guess that's it.
That's the fate.
That was the fate. And so that was enough fate for us. But just recently in the last couple months, I was talking to Peter about a family friend who had Googled my name and saw this video, very much probably like the one we're recording, an interview online I'd done for a Nomad channel in 2021. And so I mentioned it to him and I said, oh, I didn't like that interview I did. I'm hoping that that's not the video she watched. So curious, Peter obviously started to Google the video and now I've mentioned it here. So hopefully nobody Googles it. But anyway.
Everyone will Google it.
Let me just write, what is it that we're not supposed to Google?
Exactly. So it was my friend, Traveling Taylor, and she records a lot of videos and interviews, and she's really wonderful. And we were in South Africa. We were in Cape Town at the time at the Foundry Co-working, which you might know of, Palle. And we had done this interview. So obviously curious, Peter starts to Google it and he looks at it and then he just to watch it. And he's like, I think I've seen this video before. And I was like, well, that's impossible. It's got like 400 views. Taylor has like, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 followers. Like, this is not a massive channel, you know? And he was like, I don't know, it just looks so familiar. And I was like, okay. And so he's like, I'm going to like it. So there was 13 likes. So he became the 14th like. And he went to like it. And he was like, oh, I'm on my business account. So he switched it, his personal account, and he had already liked it. So 4 years ago, Peter had already liked the video. So anyways, there's a few stories of how we ended up with each other. Yeah, that's our love story.
So you were already actively looking for a serious relationship when you went to Bansko and when you met him?
I was open to it and I knew what I wanted. I had a lot going on at the time. I was going through like a health issue. So I wasn't necessarily prepared to dive in and take somebody on that ride with me, but I knew what I wanted when I was ready.
Makes sense.
So one year on, how do you decide where to go next and how long to stay? Because now it's not just you who decide where the next step is going to be.
Yeah, so I had a lot of plans already mapped out, and it did end up being a lot of Peter just following where Aliza needs to go. because, as nomads, sometimes we have these things that we have to get to a wedding in North Carolina by this date. And so it makes sense to go to Mexico after that. And, we don't want to make these grand compromises in our plans. As flexible as we might seem, we still have some sort of structure. Now, I'd already booked Nomad Cruise. And so I was setting sail from Canada to Japan, and that was just shortly after. So after Nomad Fest, I headed to Georgia. We stayed in touch, and he ended up joining me there. And then we decided that we would go to Asia. Peter is a very easygoing guy, and so I'm very lucky because he does tend to be okay with whatever the plans are, as long as there's, he's usually happy if there's like a beach, he can surf. We know what we need to be happy. And it hasn't been like a huge barrier for us. The biggest decision we had to make was where we were going to go after Japan. And we ended up deciding on Chiang Mai. And so we made that decision together. We stayed there for 4 months. And then my business brought us to Mexico City, which is not very convenient for Peter because Peter is an on and off nomad. Unfortunately, not what I was looking for, but he is a pharmacist. So he does have to go back and work in Ireland, and Mexico's pretty far for him to travel for work back and forth, but we're making it work and he compromised on it. Yeah, and there's other things I've done. I've told him after the business takes off, we'll move somewhere that has a beach and, we can raise a family in Portugal or Spain and things like that. So we always are mindful of what each other's needs are.
Yeah, so you went to Chiang Mai. Was that also to go to Nomad Summit?
It wasn't. I think I was a bit like nomaded out even at that point.
So you go to Chiang Mai.
Yeah, I know, right? That doesn't make a lot of sense. I think we were looking for somewhere comfortable where we could have a nomad community if we wanted it and dip into it. And then it was just pure coincidence after we had booked it that I learned, I think we booked it in like September. So then I learned that Nomad Summit was coming back and they were hosting. And I thought, okay, let me check my energy levels as we get closer. And, I did end up participating. So it was great. I loved the style of Nomad Summit. And I think it was really different from other conferences I've been to. So yeah, it was a pleasant surprise to be somewhere where that was happening.
We wanted to talk a little bit about the emotional side of the nomad relationship. When you travel together and stay at the same place constantly together 24/7, especially from what I noticed, that tends to happen much more quickly for nomad couples than normal life couples, let's say, who take their time to move in, let's say. How do you find your personal space if you're constantly traveling together and sharing Airbnbs and just stick together 24/7? How to find the needed amount of personal space in the nomad relationship?
Yeah, I think we had some kinks we had to iron out, and it's about compromise and respect, right? So I think you're putting two people together, even if you think about your very best friend and living with her or him, you're gonna have things that are not compatible. You have to come into the relationship knowing that it's a trade-off. You're trading being with this amazing person and having the support for a few small lifestyle changes. Hopefully there's only a few, and hopefully, you're not making these massive shifts in your life that are foundational. So for example, for me, I'm a bit of a night owl and I would work late into the evening and Peter can't sleep with the light on. So, we have to make sure we choose an Airbnb where there's like a separate bedroom or there's a space where I won't be disturbing him if I'm working late at night. And when we were in Thailand, that was difficult because a lot of my works on PST. So people would start responding and I'd get like really into emails pretty late at night when we were trying to wind down. And I think like it's important to know what your deal breakers are. You have to come into a relationship and be prepared to make adjustments. It can't be, I think a lot of us are in our 30s and 40s and it's like, oh, well, this is the way it is. And it's you have to be willing to make a little bit of change. And so we've made small changes. Some are easier than others. And we always just keep in mind, we always talk about goodwill. Like there's so much goodwill in our relationship. And it's like, what does this really mean to me, that I really need it to be this way? Or is it like totally worth it that I get this person in my life that just brings so much more into it? And I think leading with that heart and that mindset makes everything else seem so small and insignificant.
Mm.
Do you ever get tired of each other, just of like constantly being around each other?
So far, no. I'm not going to lie. We've been very lucky to just be super compatible. We've had our moments about things and I'm happy to talk about them. But in Thailand, he would go to a co-working every day and I would work from home. And that would give us some time apart. And when he'd come home, we were really excited to be around each other. We'd have dinner. And when we got to Mexico, we thought that would have to be the same. But he couldn't really find a co-working that fit around where we're living right now. So we've been working from home a lot together. And it's been totally fine. Like, we're both working on businesses. We both are really excited about each other's business. So we're very supportive. When something big happens, we turn to each other and we're like, oh my God, check this out. And it's fun. I think what we need to be mindful of is that we're actually spending time with other people. We're getting out of the house, not losing ourselves in this routine of like, well, I have a friend right here. So, I mean, this is our whole world. And remembering that it's important to get outside and do things, do walking tours, and make sure you have like girlfriends and guy friends and other community members, because otherwise your world can also become very, very small. And I always encourage people, like, we spent a lot of time apart over the last year just because of his work and the schedule I had already planned with Nomad Cruise. And also I have 2 really new nephews, so I try to go back and see them. But I do encourage people with nomads. It's like very easy to move in quickly. And as you said, Alexandra, that's super common with us. We're like, oh, let's just move in together. Let's just get a bigger, nicer place with the budget, or let's just save money, or like, we're both going to be there, so let's just do this together. It's respect yourself by giving yourself some space, and you have the rest of your life potentially to be with this person. So enjoy the thrill of like seeing them 3 times a week, or like looking forward to activities. Because I think what I've noticed when I've really gone all in with these nomad relationships, just like nomad friendships, to become your best friend in like a week and a half.
Yeah.
And, with nomad relationships, it can be a real whirlwind. And you're thinking, how did we get here? We're so serious, but yet we still don't know a lot about each other. And I really think space and time can, just like in a normal city relationship, can build those things up for you.
Yeah, and you say that if you want to test your relationship, you should go on a big trip with that other person, and that's what you're doing. So if you can get through this, then you got something powerful.
Yes. Yeah, it is true. And there's so many little things you'll notice that you're just like, oh, I didn't realize that was a trigger of mine, but here we are, And yeah, so.
But it sounds like you're also supporting each other's growth with that you're excited about each other's businesses. So I guess you are helping each other grow in that way by having talks about what it is that you do.
Yes. I mean, in the nomad community, the great thing is like you're already going to find a group of nonconformists and people that are okay not taking the traditional route. But then still within that, there's so many styles. People do have stable jobs. People pursue entrepreneurship. People pursue contract work. There's different ways to be pursuing this lifestyle. And for us, I think we have the same values. We both really want to enjoy and have passion in the work we do. We prioritize joy in our daily lives. I think it's really fun to have somebody to just rally in this lifestyle with you, and to have a partner in crime, and to sometimes you're taking a lot of leaps of faith, and it's nice that you feel validated. It's nice that you feel like somebody has your back, and that you can both. It's just an experiment. I mean, that's all life is, really, essentially. And if you can both go on this crazy ride together, then it's just that much more fun. And that's how I really do feel with my partner. I feel very grateful that somebody wants to come along for all the things I want to do in life with me. And we're willing to bet on ourselves just been very supportive to wake up every day and have somebody else there. It's a shift from traveling alone. I think when I traveled alone, there was a lot of focus on meeting other people. I went to a lot of meetups. And mind you, as there's a lot of great places to meet, nomad places to meet other people. And I can tell you about how I've met past boyfriends or relationships. But there's also something really great about, not having to constantly be in that like meet and greet mode and sometimes survival mode where you get to a new city and you need to like somebody asks you out for drinks and you can't say no because you really want to make sure that, you show up and they invite you again next time and you're making an effort. Whereas like sometimes you just want to get somewhere and just have a buddy, but not have to meet like a new person and figure out your group and your tribe. And so for my nervous system and that in this chapter of my life, I was really happy just to have a built-in best friend that I can do things with. And that's how it's really shifted the most for me from like solo travel to traveling with a partner.
I feel that so much. For me, that was also the biggest difference between traveling alone or traveling with someone. When you even come to the Nomad conference or like just by getting to a new city, you don't immediately have to go and search for people and make connections and put all this effort that sometimes you just don't have the social battery charged. But then you also don't want to spend the months alone in this place. So you kind of still have to push yourself all the time, and then you end up just exhausted. And it's so comforting to have someone with you and not have to put out this social energy when you don't have it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I'm sure you guys have like tons of podcast episodes or coming up on nomad burnout, and that just contributes to it. As fun as it is to meet new people and as much as I love it, and I'm sure you both love it, it still takes energy out of you. And of course, many of us are working full-time, more than full-time, and it's difficult to balance all year round.
Yeah. Having a relationship helps you focus a little bit on building your business and solid things and not so much only on socialization.
Agreed.
Before we continue, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Visit Estonia. If you're a remote worker dreaming of a digital-friendly base in Europe, Estonia should be on the top of your list. It's one of the most digitally advanced countries in the world, home to a thriving startup scene and an international community of nomads. There are two powerful ways Estonia can support your lifestyle. The Estonian Digital Nomad Visa lets you live and work legally in Estonia for up to a year. No visa runs, no gray zones. And if you're more interested in starting or running a business remotely, Estonia's e-residency program gives you access to their world-class digital business infrastructure, no matter where you are in the world. I've spent time there myself, and I can tell you the freedom, the community, and digital ease is the real deal. And in fact, Nomad Summit is registered as a company in Estonia for good reasons. We dropped the link to both things in the show notes. I'm thinking we should also talk a little bit about connecting with the locals or other people while you're traveling, if we're not talking about romantic relationships. So this goes for all of us. Let's share some of our tips on how we meet people when we get to a new place.
Mostly the meetups, I would say, for me. Meetups and events. In the era of social media now, it's not that hard to find them. So that would be my first choice, but also meeting people natively, especially in the very popular places for nomads. Sometimes you just go to a co-working or you go to a cafe and suddenly you know like 10 people just by spending a day there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with Alexandra. Often I do meetups like Nomad List is a resource that I've been using for many years, or like Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups. There's so many avenues now. And I tend to reach out there. And yeah, I think you still have to always put yourself out there. You can't just show up to these things and expect to have a group of people that align with your interests. But it is definitely easier in the age of social media. Even just over the last 8 years that I've been doing this, it's way easier now and way more common to just be able to show up in a city and people understand what you're doing. Like I work remote, I'm a digital nomad, and people understand that concept.
Yeah.
What about you, Palle?
I also use the meetup groups and the things that you're talking about here, but I also join Toastmasters meetings where I go and meet some locals. I made some really good friends here in Cape Town that I've been hanging out with a lot through a Toastmasters meeting. And I also do Rotary sometimes. I used to be a Rotarian when I lived in Denmark, so now I'm joining some Rotary clubs, and I'm actually very close on joining a Rotary club here, becoming an official member here in Cape Town, even though I'm not here all the time. But being that I'm a member would mean that when I get to a new place, and it's all over the world, I can just use their app and find the local club and invite myself to a meeting, basically. So it's a very good way of starting. So those are the two I want to mention also, if it's not just for meeting other nomads.
Yeah, that's really unique. That's actually the first time I've heard that, but really, really smart.
Yeah. One thing I also did was looking up the meetups for my profession, also not nomad related, but just for me, it was like web designer meetups, and go to those or some web design communities in different places wherever I was going.
And sometimes you just go on like a tour or an adventure or, some sort of activity, and you can make friends that way as well. So it depends also like how long you're staying somewhere and the investment level you want to put into it. But for myself or yourself, Palle, that mentions like you're going to stay somewhere long term, you could even like join tennis or, a club of some sort and meet people there.
A gym.
Yeah, the gym, like dance classes. There's so many places to kind of meet people. I think we always think of like those nomad bubble kind of resources, but this is great because I think there's a lot of other ways to also meet people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can learn something from the people with a normal lifestyle too sometimes.
Yeah, we should.
Like how to meet people in normal places, like just at the gym or playing sports.
Yeah.
Overall, dating as a nomad can be tricky because you might meet someone and then you tell them that you're a nomad and you're leaving in 2 weeks or a month, and then they say, oh, let's just be friends. So for somebody listening to this who is a solo nomad, what advice would you give them?
I have had some people change their mind when I've been nomad dating. And I think what's really important is with nomad dating, which we kind of touched on, it can seem very transient. It can seem very touch and go and easy to just be, this isn't like a massive commitment. I'm not impacting the person's life too much. This is casual. But there are nomads that even though their life is flexible, they're still looking to date seriously. When you meet somebody coming into it, truly knowing what you want and what you're asking for and being upfront about that. I think because we're nomads, we always approach it with this can be casual, like not super casual, not a fling necessarily, but just if it doesn't feel good enough, we'll just go on our way. But in a normal city, you wouldn't just waste somebody's time for a week. So I think it's really important coming into contact with that person, knowing what you're looking for, speaking up about it. I know that I dated a guy in Argentina and we were both nomads, and then we learned that, he didn't want kids and I did. And after that, I always put, when I was on the apps, I always put wanting kids on the profile. And I think that sometimes we think that, saying that we want kids might scare people, like that's too serious. She's in a really different place than me. But it's just so much more important to be upfront and get that stuff out of the way so you can actually start learning about the other person and understanding if it's a good match. Because there's just so much more that comes after those basics that you still have to get through. And I've always been upfront saying like, I want kids. And if the other person isn't sure or they don't want kids, then it's an easy no. It's not a bad thing. It's just an easy no. And we're both saving ourselves time.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to just know that it's possible. It's possible to meet nomads who are looking for a serious relationship and someone who you will actually match with in terms of what you're looking for in life. Because I've met some people that I think got quite discouraged maybe by the interactions they had. Yeah, there's this whole stereotype that nomads are only looking for casual. And then I think some people might agree for that, even though that's not what they actually want, but just because they think that a serious, healthy relationship for nomads is not possible. So I think it's important to remember that it is actually possible and look at the couples who can be examples of that and not agree to something that is not working for you just because you don't think you can find what you're really looking for.
Yeah, when you're in alignment, I think the things that are meant for you will be drawn towards you. So you should never change your path or what makes you happy for a person or for anything, really. Of course, there are circumstances, sometimes family needs our help and things like that. But ultimately, the nomadic lifestyle does, very much encourage us to pursue our own path and design our life. And I wouldn't want anyone to derail their life because they feel like they can't find love on the road. You can, and it can shift you. And maybe after that, you become not nomadic. But until then, I think you should always keep working in the direction of what brings you joy, what fulfills you, and that person will will cross your path along the way.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Aliza, thank you so much for being on the Nomad Summit podcast. I really learned a lot from hearing your perspectives on things. I just have one more. If you could complete this sentence. A relationship on the move works when
there's mutual respect, compassion, and goodwill.
Mic drop. Thank you so much for doing this and enjoy Mexico City.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you both. Thank you so much for having me, and I really look forward to hearing the rest of the episode.
Thank you, Aliza.
Now go give Peter a hug.
Okay. I will.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Produced by radioguru.co.uk.